Okay, Vino Madunai Eloheinu Aleinu Maaseh Adeinu Kon Ina Aleinu Maaseh Adeinu Koneu. I'd like to begin the shiur tonight in Talmud Eser HaSefirot. I'd like to dedicate the shiur tonight Le'ilui Nishmat Harav Agon Adin Even Yisrael Steinzal Zichron Tzaddik Livracha Ruach Adonai Tenechenu Began Eden. וגם נפש הרב יעקב צבי בן ליבד זיכרון צדיק לברכה רוח אדוני תנחנו בגן עדן וגם הרב אהרון וולקין זיכרון צדיק לברכה רוח אדוני תנחנו בגן עדן וגם נפש אבי ומורי ועטרת ראשי צבי הרש בן מרדכי רוח אדוני תנחנו בגן עדן וגם נפש חמי ומורי ועטרת ראשי אליעזר בן ישעיהו דוד רוח אדוני תנחנו בגן עדן וגם נפש חיים שמואל יעקב בן אריה וגם נפש דוד בנימין בן משה יעקב וגם נפש שמעיה בן עדינה וגם נפש יצחק בן עליזה וגם נפש יצחק בן מרים וגם נפש הרב יהודה בן רבקה לאה רוח אדוני תנחם בגן עדן וגם נפש חתון חנה בת מזל מים וגם נפש רות בת רחל וגם נפש מאירה בת חיים וגם נפש זינה בת שורה וגם נפש חנה רחל בת בנימין יהודה וגם נפש רחל בת לאה וגם נפש רחל בת אסתר רוח אדוני תנחם בגן עדן להבדיל המתים לחיים רפואה שלמה ואליהו בן שרה ושמעון משה בן עדינה ויהושע בן משה וחיים שנו זלמן יהודה בן הינדי יוכבד וגם דוקטור זאב בן לאה וגם משה בן מוואי El Narafan Alehem, El Narafan Alehem, El Narafan Alehem. Also Rafah Shema for Malsa bat Fortuna, for Esther Pera bat Chana Devorah, for Chava Miriam bat Bunyareza, for Chaya Miriam bat Esther, and for Chana Sarah bat Rachel. El Narafan Alehen, El Narafan Alehen, El Narafan Alehen. And also Rafah Shema for all those affected by the coronavirus. May they have a complete and speedy recovery in the Zuchut of the Torah we're going to learn tonight. El Narafan Alehem, El Narafan Alehem, El Narafan Alehem. So we're in the Talmud Eser HaSefirot. We're in the page Mem. We're in Chelek Bet, the second Chelek, Perek Aleph, and we're in subsection 5. Hey. V'neh ha'igul hazeh harishon hayoter davuk im ha'en sof. And this first igul, this first circle that is in the Sphirot of the igulim, that is basically in the halal. So the first aspect when the kav comes into the halal, it makes the first igul, makes the first circle, and that is davuk with the ensof. That's attached to the ensof, again, where the kav is. Hu hanikra, next page, and I'm sharing my screen for all those who would like to participate with a computer with a screen. Hu hanikra keter de Adam Kadmon. This is called the keter, the Sphira, the keter of Adam Kadmon. We mentioned previously that there are 4 worlds, the Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. There's actually a 5th world, which is called Adam Kadmon. We discussed previously that the word Adam does not mean man. We should not distinguish or make a confusion, chas v'shalom, between Adam Kadmon and Adam Harishon. Adam Harishon was a man. The word over here, Adam, means world. The world Kadmon, shall we say, or the first or the initial. And that is basically what he's talking about here. And then what happened is after the kav comes into the halal, makes the first igul, and then the kav extends itself a little bit more. V'nimshach me'at, it extends a little bit, or it's drawn a little bit. V'chazar lehit agel, and then it goes back and does another igul, does another circle. So that's now another circle that is within the circle of the keter. That's now another circle that's within the circle of the keter. V'naasa igul bet toch igul ha'alef, and this makes a second circle that is within the first circle. V'zenikra igul ha'chochma de Adam Kadmon, and this is called the igul of ha'chochma, with the Sphira of the chochma of Adam Kadmon. Od mitpashet yoter lemata, and then the kav extends a little bit further down. V'chazal hitadgel, and then returns and goes back and does another circle. V'naaseh igul gimel tocha igul habet, and then a third circle is made within the second circle. V'nikra igul bina de Adam Kadmon. This is called the igul of bina, the Sphira of the bina of Adam Kadmon. V'alderech zeh haya holech umitpashet umitagel, and by this way, he's not going to go through all 10 of of them, but we need to understand that it goes through the 10 Sphirot of Adam Kadmon, all the way down to the Malchut. So each time the Kav extends itself, and then there's another Igul that is made, so that would be the Chesed, and then extends the Gvura, continuing on, Mit Pashet to Mit Agel, Ad Igul Yod, until it gets to the 10th Igul. So there are 10 of these spheres, 10 of these circles, Hanikra Igul Malchut Adam Kadmon. This is called the Igul of Malchut, which is the lowest Sphira of the Adam Kadmon. Continuing on, now we're on page Mem Gimel, going to Mem Daled. Hare Nitba'er Inyan Hayod Sphirot. And now we've explained the idea of the Yod Sphirot, the 10 Sphirot of Adam Kadmon, Shene'etzlu Besod Yod Igulim Ze Toch Ze, that were emanated in the secret of 10 spheres, one within inside the other. And this is the concept of the Galdei of the onion, the skins of the onion, that each one is within the other one. Obviously, the higher sphira, which is the Keter, is the one that's more outside. And as you go further inner circles, those are the ones that are lower down, or shall we say, further from the Ein Sof. Any questions on that? And which he didn't mention this, but within each of these igulim, obviously there's a border. Just like the keter has the border that the Ein Sof is only attached to the keter by the kav. Similarly, the only place where there's a connection between these igulim is in the kav, which means within each igul there is a border that prevents them from attaching that they're connected to each other, but they're not. It's a border that doesn't allow the one igul to go into the other one. Otherwise, you lose the entire concept of the igulim. Okay, now we're going to Vav. Hakav mechaber et kol ha'igulim yachad. So we understand that the kav, which is the pipe or the line that comes into the halal, this is what connects all the igulim together. Vehine habechina hamechaber et kol ha'igulim yachad. The bechina, the aspect that connects all the igulim together. He inyan kav hadak hazeh. This is the kav hadak. This is the line, the thin line. Hamit pashet min ha'Ein Sof. That is drawn, or it comes from the Ein Sof. The over, the yored, the nimshach mi'igul el igul. The over, and it passes over. The yored, and goes down. The nimshach, and is drawn. Mi'igul el igul, from circle to circle. Continuing on, mem hey. Ad siyum tachlit kulam, until the siyum, until the completion or the end and the tachlit of all of them. V'derech hakav hazeh, and by this way of this kav, nimshach haor ve'ashefa, that the or is drawn. So we remember the kav, we said, is a pipe, and within that pipe goes the shefa, which is the Ein Sof that goes into the halal. Hatzarich lechol echad ve'echad mehem, and it is this shefa from the Ein Sof that gives chiyut, that gives life to all of these igulim, gives existence, shall we say, to all of these igulim. Any questions on that? Of course, here we're not talking physical. I have to mention that one more time. We'll mention that over and over again. There are great spiritual concepts that are being discussed here. We're not going to get to the actual nimshal. This is only the mashal. First, like we said, based on the rabbi's advice in the introduction, we're going to go through the entire Sefer, just the top part, so we can get an understanding of what's called the Komat HaAdam, or so we can get an understanding of all the worlds and how they are, the mashal, and then we will go back and we'll understand the nimshal. Okay, Zayin. Kol olam v'chol sfira kilim ma'eses sefirot pratiyot miprate pratiyot le'en ketz. Sfirot ha'igulim makifot zo et zo ki galde betzalim. So every world and every sphira, and that's in the igulim or that's in the Yosha. We didn't get to the Yosha yet. We will get to the Yosha be'ezrat Hashem. But all the world, okay, and all of the sphirot, every one of the sphirot is included, is kalul from 10 sphirot. So in the sphere of Keter, shall we say, of Adam Kadmon, there are 10 sphirot within the igul of Keter. Of course, Keter of Keter, Chokhmah of Keter, Binah of Keter, and so on. Pratiyot, mi prate pratiyot le'en ketz. And of course, with each one of those, there's another 10, and then so on. To give the analogy, it's like numbers. Between 1 and 2, it's one number, but there's 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and then there's 1.1, 1.12, 1.13, and there's 1.111, 1.112, 1.113, and that's ad infinitum. There is no end to that. So this is the same concept. Within each one of these spheres, which each one of these circles, there's an infinite amount of Sphirot inside in bases of 10. Sphirot igulim makifot zo et zo kagaldei betzalim. And this is what distinguishes the Sphirot of the igulim from the Sphirot of the Yosher. In the Sphirot of the igulim, what's happening is each one of the spheres is makif, is encircling, is surrounding the one that is below it, the one that is lower, like the skins of an onion. Okay, let's continue on. Zayin. Each world, we understand, has 10 Sphirot. So the world of Adam Kadmon has 10 Sphirot. The world of the Atzilut has 10 Sphirot. The world of the Bria has 10 Sphirot. The world of the Yetzirah has 10 Sphirot. And the world of the Asiyah has 10 Sphirot. The Chol Sphira, continue on next page, Memvav, Usphira Pratit Shebechol Olam Ve'olam. And each Sphira, each individual Sphira within each world, Kalul Miyod Sphirot Prate Pratiot, is included within it another 10 Sphirot within each one. The Kulam Ki Al Gadei Batzalim Zeh Betoch Zeh, and each one is like the skins of an onion, one into the other. Al Derech Tmunat HaGalgalim Kenizka B'Sifrei Tochniim. And this is similar to if you think in the geometry, when you have one circle within another circle, or orbits within orbits, it's the same idea, that each one is within each one. Any questions on that? Okay, next page. Mem Zayin. Kol igul hakarov le'ensof yotem mechavero. Every sphere, every circle that is closer to the Ein Sof, more than its chaver, more than its friend, more than its other sphira, nivchan le'elyon mishubach mechavero, is considered to be elyon, exalted, and mishubach, and more praiseworthy mechavero. Why? Because it's closer to the Ein Sof. Ad she'olam hazeh, until we get to this world, liyoto b'nekuda ha'emtza'it, this world is actually in the middle, because if you keep going circles and circles and circles, when you get to the malchut of the Asiyah, which is this world right here, the world of the Asiyah, the malchut of the Asiyah, this world is basically in the center of the Igulim. Continuing on. And the reason, and by the fact that it's in the center, means that it's the furthest away from the Ein Sof than any one of the other Sphirot that are mentioned. Hu b'tachlit hagashmiut, and this is the Gashmiut. The further we get away from the Ein Sof, the more we get closer to the Gashmiut. Chet. Kol igul v'igul mikol ha'olamot kulam. Every circle within each one of the worlds, asher betoch ha'chalal, that is within the chalal, and we need to understand everything that is we're talking about now is in the chalal. Outside the chalal, there's only the Ein Sof. There is nothing we can talk about that. There is no havana, no understanding we have anything outside the chalal. The only thing we have, and not even everything in the chalal, the only thing we can grasp are things that are in the chalal. Everything that's in the Chalal, Kol HaKarov El Or Ein Sof Yotem Mechavero, which whenever is closer to the Or Ein Sof, more than its friend, Hu Elyon Me'od Meshubach Mechavero. It is more praiseworthy and is more exalted than the other one. Ad shenimsa ki haolam hazeh ha'artzi ha'chomri, until we get to this world, which is the physical world, the land, the physical world. Hu nekuda ha'emtzai tichuna. This is basically in the center, and this is the center point of the circle. Toch, and of course, we're not talking physical. Once again, we have to stress that. Toch kol ha'igulim kulam. It is within all of the igulim. Betoch kol ha'makom ha'chalal ve'avir ha'panui ha'nomala. And this is inside the chalal and the avir ha'panui, and the empty air. We briefly touched on that previously. We did not discuss what the nimshal of that is, only the mashal. The gamhu miruchak min ha'Ein Sof harchaka gemura, and we understand that that center part is the furthest away from the Ein Sof. ultimate furthest distance. You can't get further than that because that's in the center. There's no further than the center inside a circle. Yoter mikol ha'olamot kulam, more than any of the other worlds. V'alken hu kol kach gashmi v'chomri betachlit ha'gashmiut, and because it's the furthest away from the Ein Sof, that is why it is more gashmi, more materialistic, and more matter, based on matter, betachlit ha'gashmiut. This because this is in the center part of all the igulim. And understand this very, very well. Any questions on that? Okay, let's go to the next section. We're now on page Memchet, and once again, I want to encourage everyone who's going to be participating with this class. Of course, I will continue to share my screen, but it's probably appropriate to purchase the Sefer, the book. If anybody needs the link, I sent it to some. If you'd like, I can send you the link. It's a worthwhile purchase. Memchet, we're in Perek Bet, and this is going to discuss Mivaer HaSefirot de Yosher, Yetziatan v'Ishtalshelutan Uma Shenichlal Behen. So what we were previously discussing was the Spherot of the Igulim, which is the spheres, or the circles. Now we're going to discuss the Spherot of the Yosher. And almost all of the Kabbalah is dealing only with the Spherot of Yosher. Almost never is it dealing with the Spherot of the Igulim. Everything is the Spherot of the Yosher. So that was, of course, what we discussed previously. Now this is getting to, shall we say, what we're going to be discussing throughout the rest of the entire book. Continuing on, Aleph, Seder Yetziat Eser Sefirot the Yosher, the order of how the 10 Sefirot of the Yosher came out. Once again, the source of all of this is the Ein Sof, yes? Hey, 5 chelkei neshama sheba'adam hatachton, the 5 different parts of the neshama, of the soul of a person, hatachton. Of course, Adam Tachton is talking about mankind, different from Adam Kadmon, very, very different. Adam Kadmon is a world. Adam Tachton is man, okay? Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. We understand just like there are 5 worlds that we discussed so far, Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Similarly, there are 5 aspects to the soul, to the Neshama. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida, in order of elevation. Gimel, Hen be'igulim, Hen be'yosher, Yesh, or makif, or pnimi. With each one of these igulim and with each one of the yosher, there is or makif, there's a surrounding or, and or pnimi, and an or that's inside. There's an or that's around, there's an or that's inside. We're not going to go into detail about that right now. Kli chitzon v'kli pinimi. And similarly, there is a kli, there's a utensil, a kli that is chitzon and kli pinimi. Here we are not talking about a physical utensil at all. But we understand the analogy, the mashal, is when you have a utensil, you have the part of the utensil that's what's called the bet kibul, which is the part of the utensil that receives items on the inside, and then you have the kli chitzon, you have the outside of the kli, which is not receiving anything. Obviously, if there's spillover, then it leaks over onto the sides. This is the concept. Now, this is all spiritual. There is nothing physical here. The mashal being used is or and kli. And we'll talk about this in more detail, Be'ezat Hashem, in future classes. Next, Daled. Or ha'igulim hu or ha'nefesh. The or, the light of the igulim, is the or of the nefesh, the lowest kavyachol aspect of the soul. The or ha'yosher or ha'ruach. Again, not the human soul, again, the analogy here, the mashal. Or ha-yosher, and the or of the yosher is or ha-ruach. So we understand from here that the or of the yosher is at a higher level than the or of the igulim. Techila ne'etzlu ha-igulim ve'achar kach ha-yosher. And we understand that first the igulim were emanated first, and then afterwards were emanated the sfirot of the yosher. Hey, arich ampin de igulim. Okay, Arich Anpin is basically the partsuf that corresponds to the keter. That's called the Arich Anpin, or translated into English, the long face, arich anpin, the same concept of erech apayim. This is how you would say this in Hebrew. Aramaic, it's a little different. Erech apayim is one of the midot of Hashem, the fact that He is giving mercy to everyone, whether they deserve it or not deserve it, and that is precisely what the keter is. The keter is rachamim gimurim, given to those who deserve and given to those who don't deserve. So this is the first partsuf. He did not explain anything about partsufim yet, so we're just going to state it as a term. Arich anpin de igulim, which means the first partsuf of the igulim, me'ir la abba ve'ima de igulim. Now, abba is basically corresponds the partsuf that corresponds to the sphira of the chokhmah, and ima is the partsuf that corresponds to the sphira of the binah. And the three of these together make what's called the gimel rishonim, or the gar. So you have arich anpin, which corresponds to the keter, the abba, which corresponds to the chokhmah, and the ima, which corresponds to the binah. So here is referring to the arich anpin of the igulim, is me'ir, shines, to the abba, the ima, the igulim, to the chokhmah and the binah of the igulim. Bivchinat chalonot. In the aspect of chalonot, windows, we're not going to go into more detail about that. We understand what a window does. It allows light to transfer from one place, from one section to another section. Obviously, we're not talking about real physical windows here. This is the mashal. Migimel kavin, with three kavim, with three lines. Yamin small ve'emtza, shibo. And when there's three lines, obviously there's a right line, there's a left line, and then there's a middle line. This is the three lines that come through the chalonot, that come from the gimel kavim that come through the chalonot. Umehem nimshach or lechola igulim, and from them the light goes from one igul to another igul with these. So this is why we understand that there's an aspect of the yosher even in the igulim, but we'll leave that alone for now. The ofen shekol hapratim sheyesh b'yosher. So from here we understand that all of the details that we have at the yosher, because what makes the yosher unique is there's a yamin, there's a small, and there's an emtza. Inside a circle, there is no yamin, there is no small, there's an emtza. There's above and there's below. But with Yosher, we have a concept of a right line, a left line, and a midline. And we also have a concept of above and below. But nevertheless, these pratim of the Yosher, where there's a right line, a left line, and a middle, also are in the igulim based on the mashal that he's just describing here. Yesh gam ken be igulim. There are also these aspects in the igulim as well. Vav. Adam Kadmon nimshach me'en sof ad sof atzilut. The world of Adam Kadmon basically is nimshach, is drawn from the Ein Sof. Remember we said the Ein Sof is the beginning as soon as it comes into Halal, and then you have the igul of the Keter, and that first igul, that first circle is the Keter of Adam Kadmon. And Adam Kadmon, the world of Adam Kadmon, extends all the way to the Sof of the Atzilut. The Sof of the Atzilut, of course, is the Malchut. So we understand that the world of the Atzilut is Kalul, is included within the world of Adam Kadmon. Ubo nichlalim kol ha'olamot. And in that is all of the other olamot are included within those. The en lanu reshut le'asok bo. And we have no permission whatsoever to delve into the world of Adam Kadmon, or for that matter, from certain aspects of the world of Atzilut as well. That is beyond human comprehension. And we have no permission to la'asok. That doesn't mean we don't have permission to talk about it. We have permission to talk about it, but we cannot delve into it, because it's beyond human comprehension. Zayin. And now we understand that the entire Kabbalah is almost exclusively discussing the Yosher and not the Igulim. That was the introduction. Any questions on that? Okay. Seder Yetziat Eses Sphirot the Yosher. So we already have discussed in the previous parak the Eses Sphirot of the Igulim. Now we're going to understand. We're going to learn about the Eses Sphirot of the Yosher, of the lines. Igul's a circle, Yosher are lines. Ve'ata, and now, Nevaer bechina habet sheyesh b'yod Sphirot. We're going to understand a second aspect that's in the Yod Sphirot, in the 10 Sphirot. Now, this is very important because sometimes what we do is we try to understand, well, how do you have Igulim and Yosher? It's two different ways of looking at exactly the same thing. And because we're talking about a mashal, we're not talking about something that is physical, it can be two different things at the same time. because what we're really discussing is not that there's nothing physical here. We're trying to understand conceptually, and all of the terms we have here have nimshal, and that is the concepts is what we're going to have to arrive at. But before we get to the concepts, we first have to understand the mashal. So there are two aspects. The one was the igulim, and now the second aspect is that of the yosher. Halohu bechinat or hayosher. This is the bechinat of or hayosher. We said there's or of the makif, and now we have or penimi or of the yosher. Kidimyon gimel kavin, like a dimyon, like the imagery of three lines. Ketsurat adam ha'elyon, like a person. A person, if you understand, has three. You can think about three lines. There's the right side of a person's body, there's the left side of the person's body, and then there's the middle of the body. And basically the kav that we discussed above, hamit pashet milamala lemata, that is drawn from above. Of course, when we say lemala, we're talking about close to the Ein Sof. Lemata, we're talking about further from the Ein Sof. That is mit pashet, that is drawn from above to below. Asher mimenu mit pashtim ha'igulim. From that kav we discussed in the last chapter how all the igulim come from the kav. Gam hakavahu mitpashet beyosher milamala lamata. Also, the same kav also is mitpashet, is spreading out in an aspect of yosher, from above to below. Merosh gag ha'elyon shel igul ha'elyon mikulam, from the rosh, from the top of the gag ha'elyon, when the kav is first coming into the halal, that's called gag ha'elyon. Shel igul ha'elyon mikulam, of the first igul, which we said is the igul of the keter of Adam Kadmon, ad lamata mitachtit siyum kol ha'igulim mamash, until you come all the way down from the to the siyum of all the igulim mamash, which we discussed as the malchut, the igul of the malchut, milamala lamata, from above to below. Kalul miyod Spheroid, including with 10 Spheroid, besod tselem adam yashar baal koma zekufa, in a secret of a tselem, and this is the concept, we're not going to go into detail about this now, that he was created with tselem Elohim. This is the same concept that man, the human man, was created in a similar fashion, and the mashal point of view is similar to what we have here. Of course, there's no man in the shamayim, okay? Besod tselem adam yashar, like the tselem of Adam, of a person, baal koma zekufa, standing up. That makes the difference between men and animals. Animals don't stand up. They bent over or they're on fours. Man is standing up, and that's why man is b'tselem Elohim. Kalu meremach evarim is included within it 248 evarim, limbs, mitztairim b'tziyur gimel kavim yamin usmol be'emtza, which are basically drawn in a tziyur, in a picture of three lines, right side, left side, and emtza. Kalu miyod Sphirot bichlalut, and this is included in the 10 Sphirot in generalities. 10 Sphirot. The chol sphira mehem nifretet liyod Sphirot, and just like we in the igulim, we have the 10 Sphirot of the keter, and then within that you have 10 Sphirot, and within that first one you have another 10, and on so on in infinity. The same thing works like this as well, and that every Sphira in the Yosher also has 10 Sphirot inside, and each one of those 10 has 10 and 10 and 10. Ad infinitum, le'ad le'en ketz, until no limit. Any questions on that? Okay. Page memtet, bet. 5 chelkei neshama shebe'adam hatachton. There are 5 aspects of the neshama that is in a person. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. Nefesh, I'm not going to translate this into English, it's useless. The English words, there are not enough English words to describe what we're talking about here. Hine yesh be'adam ha'tachton hei bechinot orot. We understand that within Adam, within a person, there are 5 bechinot orot. Orot are lights. We're going to get into the nimshal of that at a later day. Shehem, hanefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. Those are the 5 lights, the 5 orot, the five emanations that are within the first couple of emanations that are inside a person. Vehem he ma'alot, and they are 5 ma'alot, 5 levels. Zo lemala mizo, one above the other. That's why we start with the nefesh, which is the lowest. The ruach is lemala me'a nefesh. The neshama is lemala me'a ruach. The chaya is lemala min neshama, and the yechida is lemala min chaya. V'hu sod he pa'amim, and this is the sod of the 5 times where it says Barachi nafshi et Hashem in the Mizmor of Barachi nafshi, which, if not mistaken, is 104. Keniskar Masechet Brachot. If you look at Masechet Brachot, it discusses the fact that in Barachi nafshi there are 5 times it says the word Barachi nafshi. Daf Yod Amud Aleph. Shehem keneged he bechinot sheyesh la neshama, and this is vis-a-vis the 5 different aspects that the general thing is called the neshama, even though one of the aspects is called neshama, but the human neshama, the neshama, has these 5 aspects of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida, similar to the fact that in Tehillim there are 5 times it says Barachi nafshi et Hashem. Any questions on that? Okay. Gimel. Hen be'igulim, hen be'yosher, yesh, or makif, or penimi, kli chitzon, ukli penimi. We discussed this in the introduction. V'nei bechinat hayod Sphirot ha'igulim kulam, the aspect of the 10 Sphirot of the igulim, all of them, yesh bahem kol ha'bechinot ha'namimala. Each one of them has the aspects that we just discussed. Shehem orot ve'kelim, lights and utensils. The or nechelak, and the or is divided. The or penimi, the or makif. The light is divided into 2 aspects. One aspect is or penimi, and the other aspect is or makif. If you want to give just understanding how we see this on a daily basis, a Jewish man is required to wear talit katan. The talit katan is inside, underneath the clothing. This is why, according to the Sod, the talit katan is worn on the inside and is hidden. That is vis-a-vis the or penimi. And then you have the talit gadol, which is vis-a-vis the or makif, the surrounding. And this is what we see with the tzitzit. And there are other mitzvot that's similar to this, which we're not going to go into this for now. So the or is divided into these 2 aspects. One is called or penimi, and one is called or makif. One is the inner or the internal, and one is the surrounding light. Continuing on, page nun, the kli nechelak, and also the utensil is divided. The concept of utensil is divided into 2 different parts: lechitzoniot upnimiot. Chitzoniot is the outer part of the kli. Pnimiot is the inner part of the kli. V'chen bechinat yod Sphirot yosher, just like we had the 10 bechinot of igulim that have the concept of or and kli, both of the 2 aspects of or and the 2 aspects of kli. Similarly, in the Yod Sphirot of the Yosher, b'tziur adam yesh bo kol ha'bechinot elu be'atzmam gam ken. Each one of these are also, which means there's or, which is divided into 2, or penimi or makif, and there's kli chitzon and kli penimi, similar in the Sphirot of the Yosher. And if we understand this, if we understand the Mishnah, there are a number of Mishnayot, like the first Mishnah of Shabbat that starts off Yetziot Shabbat Shtaim Shehen Arba, 2 that are really 4. This is a remez to what we're talking about here. It's 2, it's or and kli, but it's really 4. Or penimi or makif, kli chitzon, kli penimi. And we see this also in Avot Nezikin, the same idea. This is a concept throughout the entire Mishnah, because within the Mishnah is also contained the Sodot of the Torah. Any questions? Okay. Dalet. Or ha'igulim hu or ha'nefesh. The or ha'yosher or ha'ruach. Techila ne'etzlu ha'igulim ve'achar kach ha'yosher. So the or ha'nefesh is corresponding to the igulim, and the or ha'yosher or ruach is corresponding to the or ha'yosher. Let's do in more detail. Dalet. Omnam, but hachiluk sheyesh ben ha'igulim la'yosher, one of the distinctions that we have between the igulim and the yosher, who Ki yod sfirot the igulim hem bechinat ha'or hanikra nefesh, that the 10 sfirot of the igulim are in the bechina of the or that is called nefesh. The yesh bahem or penimi ve'or makif, and within them there's or penimi and or makif, penimi vechitzon, and also a kli chitzon and kli penimi. Sheyesh la bechinat yod sfirot shel kelim, and there are also 10 sfirot of kelim. Shebechol kli mehem yesh penimiot vechitzoniot. I'm sorry, the or makif and or penimi is also called or penimi and or chitzon. The or makif can also be called or chitzon. And then we have also 10 sfirot of kelim. The same thing here. We have there's a penimiot and this chitzoniot. Continuing on, page Nun Aleph. The gam yesh yod sfirot shel orot, and there are also 10 sfirot of orot. Lechol or yesh bo or penimi ve'or makif, and for every or there's or penimi and or makif. Aval hayut sfirot the Yosher, but the 10 sfirot of the Yosher, hem bechinat haor hanikra ruach. That is a higher level that is called the or of the ruach. Shehu madrega gavoa al madregat hanefesh. That is a higher level than the or of the nefesh. Kinoda, as is known. Gam hem kulim or penimi or makif. Also, those are basically have or penimi and or makif. The gam yesh lahem yod sfirot kelim, and also they have yod sfirot kelim. B'chol kli mehem yesh bo penimiot chitzoniot, and each one of these kelim have penimiot and have chitzoniot. Upshitahi, and it is straightforward and straight and simple. Shebechinat hanefesh ne'etzla techila, that the bechinat the nefesh was first emanated, the achar kach ne'etzal haruach, and then afterwards was emanated the ruach. Okay, any questions? Okay, next, hey. Arich anpin de igulim, meir la'abav imad de igulim. We said the Arich Hampin is the Parsuf that corresponds to the Keter, shines to the Abba Ve'ima, which is the Chokhmah and Binah of the Igulim, Bibchinat Chalonot, by the aspect of Chalonot, Megimel Kavim, with 3 different lines, Yamin small ve'emtza shebo, right, left, and middle, that are inside. Umehem nimshach ha'or lechol ha'igulim be'ofan, and from them is nimshach, is drawn the or to all the igulim, shekol ha'pratim sheyesh be'yosher, that all the details that we have in the yosher, yesh gam ken be'igulim, there's also in the igulim. Okay, hey, gam biyot hayot sfirot b'bchinat igulim, in discussing the 10 sfirot, the b'china of the igulim of the circles, Ze betoch ze, one inside the other. Yesh bahem, page Nun Bet, kol ha-bechinot shel kabbalat ha-shefa. They have all of the bechinot of the receiving of the shefa. Shebiyod sfirot shebekav hayosher, that are in the 10 sfirot of the kav of the yosher. And that's why when a person learns the aspects of the yosher, you can have a picture, but you can't delve into it of the igulim. Continue on. V'hu ki be'igul ha-keter, that in the igul of the keter, hanikra arich anpin achar hatikun, that is called arich anpin after the correction. We're going to leave that alone for now. Yesh nekev echad v'chalon. There is a hole and a chalon and a window. Bitzad yamin ha'igol, on the right side of the igol. So if you understand the kav when it comes in, that one can think about is the middle, and on the right there is the yamin of the igol. Umisham yored or arich el igol abba, and from there the light of arich, which is the light of the keter, goes to the igul of the abba through that chalon that is on the right side. Umeir elav, and shines to him. The od yesh chalon sheni, and there's now another chalon, another window, bismol ha'igul shel arich, on the left side of the igul of the arich, the yotzeh ha'or ad sad small the igul abba, and the or comes out on the sad small of the abba, but just passes through. Asher betocho v'nokvo v'naseh b'chalon, and makes the chalon in the igul of the abba. Umisham nimshacha or ad igul ima, and from there the or goes to the igul of the ima of the bina. Continue on next page. Shebetoch igul abba, that is within, because remember each one the abba is makif for the ima. Umeirbo, and shines in it. V'nimsa ki ba'avur ha'or toch small igul abba, when the light is passing through on the small through the igul of the abba from the through the goal of the Abba. Eno la'Abba la'atzmo. It's not giving any light to the Abba atzmo. It's only giving the light. Eno over shamrak derech ma'avar bilvad. It's only passing through. Aval ikar ha'ara hi la'ima. But the essential part of the ha'ara, of the emanation, is going to the ima, and that's on the left side. V'nimsa ki arichan pin, and from here we understand the arichan pin, which is the partzuf that corresponds to the keter, me'ir la'Abba ve'ima yachad, is shining to both the Abba and the ima together. Kamo shehu binyan hayosher shalahem mamash. And that is similar, if we think about the yosher, if you think about the typical diagram of the Spheroid, you have the keter that's on top in the middle, and then you have the chokhmah and the binah that are on the same level together. Meaning what? That the or that comes from the keter, the or goes to the right, and that's to the chokhmah, and then the or goes to the left, and that's to the imah. That's in the igulim. Continuing on, Be'af kihem igulim zo b'toch zo, and even though they are circles one inside the other, yesh lahem kavim yesharim. Even with that, there are still lines, yashar lines, from a spiritual point of view, not physical. Yamin usmol ve'emtza, right, left, and middle. Bibchinat hachalonot ha'elu shebahem, by way of the chalonot that we just described. So that's how we understand the bechina of Yosha that is within the igulim. Umisham nimshach ha'or b'yod Sphirot ha'igulim, and from there the or goes to the yud Sphirot of the igulim, all the 10, derech kavim yesharim mamash, by way of these types of lines, b'chol ha'pratim atzmam kulam, with all of their details, asher b'yod Sphirot dekav yashar deruach mamash, similar to like we're going to learn in the Yosher, that you have the same thing. You have the chesed on the right, you have the gvura on the left. It's the same idea. Any questions? Okay. Vav. Adam Kadmon nimshach me'en sof ad sof ha'atzilut. Adam Kadmon is drawn and goes to from the Ein Sof until the end of the Atzilut. Ubo nichlalim kol ha'olamot. And within that is nichlal, is included all of the olamot. The ein lanu reshut la'asok bo. And we have no permission to be osek in the world of Adam Kadmon. V'hineh Adam Kadmon hazeh, and there, this world that we're talking about, Adam Kadmon, mavriach min hakatzeh el hakatzeh. This is a pasuk we read about in last week's parasha. Is mavriach. This is the briach hatichon, mavriach min hakatzeh el hakatzeh. That there was a middle beam in the Mishkan that was mavriach, that was going across from one side to the other. If we understand, that was basically holding up the roof, the central beam, shall we say. This is the same idea. The Adam Kadmon is basically mavriach min hakatzeh el hakatzeh, min hakatzeh ha'elyon ad katzeh ha'tachton. From the, shall we say, the katzeh elyon, the uppermost corner, not a corner dafka, ad katzeh, to the end of tachton. No, so not katzeh. Shemit katzeh is not a corner. Katzeh is an end. From the end that is in the elyon, the higher end, to the lower end. B'chol chalal ha'atzilut hamrimal, in the entire chalal, the atzilut that we discussed above. Ubazeh Adam nichlalim kol ha'olamot k'mosh katuv be'ezrat Hashem. And in this Adam, in this world, of course here the word Adam does not mean man, the word Adam means world. In this Adam, in this world, is nichlal, is included all of the olamot, like we're going to discuss. Aval b'vchinat pnimit ve'atzmuto shel Adam zeh, but when we think about the inner aspects of this world, En lanu reshut ledaber bo litasek bo klal. We have no permission to discuss, because when you think about it, that's directly connected to the Ein Sof, and that is beyond Ayin Lo Rata. That is not something within the human comprehension. So we're going to understand that the only aspects that we can discuss a little bit about is not the pinimit and the atzmuto of this Adam, but we're going to be able to discuss only the chitzoniot of this Adam, and not even all the chitzoniot, only some of the chitzoniot of this world. Any questions? Okay. Zayin. Techila yatzu ha'igulim ve'achar kach ha'yosher. En anu oskim be'igulim ela b'Yoshi b'vad. So in the beginning, first came out the igulim. That was what we discussed so far. And then after was the Yosher. And we do not have any, we do not osek, we are not delving at all whatsoever in the igulim, but only really in the Yosher. Zayin. Omnam betchila. Yes.
I'm sorry. Good question. What are hitzonim? Hitzoniot?
In reference to what?
Just when we finished Vav.
So there's pinimi and there's chitzon. Pinimi is what's the or pinimi, and there's or chitzon. Just like a kli, you have a kli pinimi and you have kli chitzon. The only thing we're going to be discussing about the world of Adam Kadmon is the chitzoniot.
Pinimi is sort of the inside, no?
Pinimi is the inside. That is correct.
Hitzon is the
outside.
Outside.
The makif.
Makif.
More than that, I can't go into detail because first we have to get to the nimshal before we can talk about that. Okay, but just the concept, the mashal, the whole purpose of going through it this way, even though it's a lot of information and it's a lot of mashal, and that's why I think it's very important to do chazara, and that's why I think it's important that you have the book. Is bottom line is that we have to go through the mashal first, and when we go through the mashal, then we can go back and learn about the nimshal. Okay. Omnam betchila yatsu yod Spheroid derech igul. So we understand the beginning, as we've discussed in this book so far. The first thing was when the Ein Sof came into the halal through the kav. The first thing that happened was made the Spherot of the igul. What was emanated? I shouldn't say made. Emanated were the Spherot of the igul. Elu toch elu, one inside the other, which means the more elyon is outside and the more tachton is inside. Ve'achar kach betoch ha'igulim, and then within the igulim, nimshach derech Yosher kitziur Adam echad. Within the igulim was Adam Yosher, was a world that was made from Yosher, the Sefirot of Yosher. Like a tziyur, like a picture, kav yachol, but not a real person, obviously an image, a nimsha, and the mashal, of Adam Echad, of one person, be'orech kol ha'igulim haniskarim la'el, in basically how we discussed the igulim previously, ve'en anu oskim klal b'bchinat igulim, but we do not involve ourselves at all in the b'chinat of the igulim, rak b'bchinat yosher bilvad. So we only are going to be involving ourselves in the b'chinat of the yosher, and basically for the rest of the book, that's exactly what we're going to be involving ourselves in, only the Yosher. Okay, any questions of what we discussed today? Okay, in the interest of not adding confusion, we're going to stop here. We'll pick up next week in Chelek Gimel, in the third Chelek of this book, okay? And then we'll discuss this further. Okay, Be'ezat Hashem, tomorrow night we have a class in Sha'arei Orah, and hopefully we'll see you there. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.
Thank you, Rabbi.